From historic hotels harboring fascinating antiquities and all manner of associated restless spirits, to dark woodland drives whose shaded twists and turns pass the remnants of weathered ex-communities that are roamed by the dead under the moonlight. Are you prepared to brave our fourth list of picks for some of the most haunted places in Colorado? Number 5. The Carter Lake Reservoir. The Carter Lake Reservoir, located in the foothills southwest of Loveland and northwest of Berthoud in Colorado, is an 1,100-acre aquatic expanse serving as the second largest reservoir in the Colorado Big Thompson Project East Slope distribution system, as well as the principal reservoir for the project's delivery to the south and to the east. Historically, following periods of severe drought resulting in failure of agricultural attempts on the High Plains through the early to mid-1930s, in 1937, the Colorado Big Thompson Project was authorized in an effort to better hydrate the state's northeastern plains utilizing water irrigated from west of the Continental Divide. Later the same year, plans to construct a reservoir south of Loveland and Berthoud were launched. In 1950, construction of the Carter Lake Dam was started, and by 1952, the expansive project was completed as 3 dams on the eastern side of a pre-existing natural basin, after which headwaters from the Colorado were siphoned to fill this man-made lake. Through the late 20th century, several modifications to the reservoir were made to accommodate for the area's growing populace. In the 1990s, additional pipelines were laid to expand Carter Lake's reach, and construction of another pipeline project would launch in 2018 and would conclude by February of 2020. Today, impressively, the Southern Water Supply Project pipeline spans 110 miles out to cities as far as Fort Morgan and Broomfield, and additionally, a hydro-powered plant at the lake produces wealths of clean electricity. Carter Lake remains open to the public, offering options in angling, hunting, boating, camping, and hiking. On a side note, swimming is only allowed at the swim beach near Dam 2, and only during scheduled hours, while all forms of cliff diving are strictly prohibited. Long-standing local legends paint the whole of the Carter Lake area as haunted by the spirits of those who have passed on near, and both officials and visitors to the expanse have reported inexplicable cold spots, ghostly light spied over the lake's waters, and terrifying accounts from boaters who have told of threatening phantom hands that grasp for dangling arms and paddles from the water's depths. Shadowy figures have been spied lurking about surrounding roadways, and near the shoreline at night, many have described phantom singing that drifts on the winds. One more popular fable that intertwines with actual history tells of a man by the name of Bennett who resided in the area around a century past and who was shot and killed along one of its many drives over a land dispute. This story continues that his untimely fate left old Bennett's soul restless, and to date, many have reported encounters with his shabbily dressed entity as it wanders the roadways into eternity, carrying with it a strange bag and shying away from the living. Number 4. The Victor Hotel. The Victor Hotel, located off of Victor Avenue in the mining town of Victor, Colorado, is a historic lodging that's original birdcage elevator, which continues to run to this day, is actually recognized as the oldest operating lift in the state. Historically, in August of 1899, Victor's early business district was destroyed in a massive fire that left the original wooden Hotel Victor in rubble, and a former shaft house at the site of our current Victor leveled alongside it. In 1899, the Woods brothers would fund the construction of what they called the 4-story Victor Bank building, which was completed by December. However, bank examiners found this bank insolvent, resulting in its closure on November 4th of 1903, and after which the Woods brothers would sell off the property. The prestigious structure would go on to act as a hospital, as another bank, as a morgue, as a jewelry store, and as a grocery market, cafe, and more until the 1960s, when it was officially closed and left abandoned. And in 1991, the premises was purchased under Victor Hotel LLC, who would fully renovate and restore the space before reopening it to guests in 1992. The Victor Hotel remains open into the present, offering luxurious accommodations, its iconic side door restaurant and lounge, and, according to legend, a slew of paranormal activity tied to the spirits of its various owners, staff, and guests long since deceased, with those braving the property into recent times reporting disembodied footsteps from vacant halls, cold rushes of air felt within sealed rooms, encounters with strange, misty apparitions that drift about, and accounts from kitchen staff who tell of utensils tables and random objects that are seemingly thrown across the room by a presence unseen. One more popular story surrounding the victor tells of an Eddie, who it's rumored was staying in room 301 and fell down an elevator shaft to his demise long ago. Eddie's entity has been sighted throughout the halls, on the elevator, and even within locked rooms, and those staying in 301 have told of heavy footsteps and of the perturbing sounds of someone shuffling about their locked room at night. Additionally, while the elevator is regularly maintained, it has a habit of acting on its own accord, especially around 3 in the morning, and always seems to stop on the 3rd floor. Many suspect a courtesy of Eddie. In room 307, strange banging, scratching, and clanking noises have been heard just outside the door, and objects have been sighted moving on their own, while a ghost dubbed Charlie, who manifests as around 60 in age, and in a black hat, torn jeans, and a plaid shirt, has been known to materialize to guests across the property, simply to strike up friendly conversation. Lastly, and most chillingly, a number of apparitions not fitting the bill of former hotelgoers have been encountered about the site, and have even been known to wake guests in the middle of the night in a panic. These souls are believed to belong to those corpses that were stored in the morgue during the building's time as a hospital. Number 3. Georgetown. Georgetown, or more affectionately nicknamed the Silver Queen of Colorado, is a historic community and the territorial charter municipality acting as the county seat of Clear Creek County in Colorado. That, though it was once the 3rd largest town in the state, now plays home to just over 1,000 residents. Historically, in 1859, Georgetown was first founded. However, it would only start seeing significant growth following James Huff's 1864 silver strike, preceding which thousands of mining operations would sprout up across encompassing mountains and hillsides, and eventually the budding city would be recognized as a center for prospectors, miners, and traders alike. On January 10th of 1868, Georgetown was formally incorporated. A few months later, it would be officialized as the county seat, and through the Colorado silver boom of the 1880s, the community would welcome massive growth and expansion. Preceding the collapse of the silver boom in 1893, town residents would begin seeking their fortunes elsewhere. Through the 1950s, the community would welcome a small revival as a ski resort watering hole for those heading to and fro the mountains. Over the years, a number of small businesses would set up shop within the expanse's aged structures. By the late 1960s, following the establishment of a hotel and museum, Georgetown would grow into a popular tourist destination. And more recently, on February 19th of 2020, the iconic Parker the Show Dog was sworn in as the hamlet's honorary mayor. In the present, Georgetown remains a popular tourist destination, offering a wealth of activities, a range of preserved historic structures, and, according to legend, its fair share of restless spirits. As it's told, the entirety of this aged community is haunted by the souls of the many who resided on site in lives long since past. And though random encounters with various full-bodied apparitions are actually common within city limits, most tell these wandering presences aren't malevolent, and are really mostly friendly. One popular story surrounding Georgetown tells of an Edward Bainbridge, who, in 1868, was hanged by a group of vigilantes following his murder of a man by the name of Martin. Since his execution, the spirit of Ed has been sighted wandering the town's streets, some say seeking vengeance, and those who have lived in the house near where he was put down have always moved out quickly, many claiming due to the torment the outlaw's angered soul was causing them. A second popular story, which oddly parallels this first tale, tells of Robert Schmale, who in 1877 was being housed in the town's jail for murder, when townies, who decided the killer was too evil to live, broke him free from his cell, dragged him out into the middle of the street, and hanged him for all to see. Schmale's body was left on display for several days as a warning to any other potential future murderers, and since, many nearing the area have described spying a ghostly man hanging by the neck who thrashes, writhes, and gurgles for moments before fading away. A third and final story tells of Mrs. Jane Fish, who, in 1897, was accused of the murder of her husband, Gaylord, by the use of chloroform while he slept. Though Mrs. Fish was eventually acquitted, many still accept that she was responsible for the man's death, and a handful of reports detail encounters with Jane's looming spirit, who gives off a melancholy air, some say due to the fact that she never truly lived down her reputation as a killer. Number 2. Riverdale Road. Riverdale Road, which stretches 11 miles between Thornton and Brighton in Colorado, is a twisting drive cutting through rural countryside and sparse woodlands that's grown massively in infamy due to the number of local legends surrounding its many turns. Historically, in 1864, one David H. Wolpert would purchase 145 acres on both the east and west ends of our current Riverdale Road, on which he would construct a prestigious home for he and his new wife, Catherine. And during their stay on site, they would welcome 2 daughters and a son into the world. Tragically, David would pass on in 1909, with Catherine following him into death in 1915, after which their property was passed through a number of owners and, over time, divided up and sold off. And in 1953, the nearby town of Thornton was plotted out and would expand around the road and weathered estate. Sadly, on November 28th of 1975, at around 1 a.m., the Wolpert mansion would burn to the ground, though fortunately no one was inside at the time, and to date, it's never been determined if this act was an arson or an accident. Land that once held the Wolpert house now rests near the Pelican Ponds open space, and according to local police documentation, the roadways near have played witness to a number of fatal car accidents, primarily due to their low lighting conditions, winding turns, and motorists traveling at excessive speeds. Riverdale Road remains open to traffic into the present, passing through the remains of the historic town of Henderson, multiple farm sites, and sparse woodlands. Chillingly, this unassuming drive is widely recognized as one of, if not the most haunted road in the country, with ancient native legends predating its very existence claiming the area formerly played home to shapeshifters and other dangerous entities. Later tales would tell the owner of an old mansion near went insane long ago and set his prestigious abode on fire with his family inside, resulting in their deaths and in his vanishing into the countryside. This fable is believed to have been derived from the burning of the old Wolpert place, though as we know today, nobody actually perished in the blaze. Additionally, several who had the chance to explore the ruins of the mansion claim to have come across literal gates to hell, though curiously, those who found them could never seem to relocate them, or even recall exactly where they were standing. Into recent times, reports of the otherworldly along Riverdale have persisted, and more modern stories tell of encounters with a spectral woman in white who walks its shoulders, and who's been known to appear in the back seats of moving vehicles, nearly causing drivers to wreck. Several have actually told of stopping for this phantom wanderer and picking her up thinking her a hitchhiker, only to have her vanish mid-drive. Other long-standing fables claim the trees off to the shoulders of Riverdale were once used to hang either witches, criminals, or the formerly enslaved, and that their restless spirits can still be spied swinging around after dark, while a number of female walkers, joggers, and the like have described feeling inexplicably threatened while traveling along the western side of the drive. Another popular local story surrounding a site located off of 120th Avenue that's known as Joggers Hill tells that long ago a jogger was murdered here, and since that their ghost has been known to follow cars at unnatural speed, tap on windows, and chill those who brave the area to the bone, while others have described hearing disembodied footsteps or the odd rhythm of what sounds to be a heartbeat, also attributed to their presence. A third popular fable surrounding Riverdale tells that long ago, a young boy who walked the stretch daily on his way to school was hit and killed by a car, leaving his ghost to wander. And to date, countless reports from motorists each year detail the finding of small, bloody handprints, found both on vehicles that never stopped or slowed down and high up on street signs. Lastly, many driving Riverdale Road at night have told of harrowing instances in which they were followed by a phantom Camaro with one headlight out that stayed uncomfortably close to them and kept pace for a time, before vanishing when they either turned off or hit the drive's end. Number 1. Cripple Creek. The historic city of Cripple Creek, located to the west and just a hair to the south of Colorado Springs in Colorado, is the statutory city and seat of Teller County that, in its earliest years, was recognized as a rich center in the gold trade, and that today offers an even richer history alongside year-round events and all manner of attraction. Historically, in 1890, one Robert Miller Womack would land a hefty strike, prompting the last swing in the Great Colorado Gold Rush, following which thousands of prospectors would flock to the area in search of their fortunes, forming a number of boom towns in their wake. In under half a decade, Cripple Creek's population would increase from a humble 500 to over 10,000 residents. In 1896, the community would weather two disastrous fires that would leave it all but demolished, and over the following months, the city was meticulously reconstructed. As the mining craze slowed, Cripple Creek's populace would dwindle. By the 1980s, its strip would boast a number of vacant spaces and empty storefronts, and though it was never fully abandoned, it would begin to earn renown as an honorary ghost town. Impressively, the area is still rich with minerals, and in as recently as 2005, the Cripple Creek district produced a formidable 731 metric tons of gold from its few remaining active mine operations. In the present, following a 1991 vote to legalize gambling, the old town site is dotted with casinos, and has since had life breathed back into its old bones in the form of tourism. Not surprisingly, this aged expanse has long been rumored to hold the spirits of its many residents since deceased, and a number of chilling legends surround its various local landmarks. The Outlaws and Lawmen Jalen Museum, which served as a lockup from 1901 to 1991, and played witness to one death in which a prisoner was either pushed or fell from a high-up railing, is rumored to be haunted by the ghosts of its former inmates, and those who have braved its bounds have reported disembodied footsteps heard traversing the wooden staircase leading to the second level of the main block, phantom laughter and whispers from the former solitary confinement cell, run-ins with shadowy figures that stalk the living, spectral faces that appear in reflective surfaces and mirrors, the small apparitions of children, and encounters with the entity of a female jailer named Rosie, who's been known to frequent the second-floor sleeping area, and who's also fond of communicating with the living at great lengths. Additionally, the museum does offer special accommodations in which visitors can spend the night in a lock-in with none but the spirits for company, and can also attempt to unravel the unknown alongside the Mountain Peak paranormal investigators. The Imperial Hotel and Restaurant, now the Christmas Casino and Inn at Bronco Billy's, is shrouded in a tragic tale telling of how one of its original owners, George Long, was killed by his disabled daughter Alice when she knocked him down a flight of stairs. The apparition of George, an older man with a bald spot and usually carrying or sometimes wearing a top hat, has been cited about and seems to be fond of watching actors rehearse when they're all by their lonesome. Also reported across the premises are doors that open and close on their own, faucets that turn on and off by themselves, objects that move inexplicably, and strange scratching noises heard from Alice's old room whenever the doors are left closed. At the Colorado Grand Casino, which is also home to Maggie's restaurant, both staff and guests have told of disembodied voices and of the sounds of a party heard emanating from the ballroom, of slots that cling and clang after the room is clear and closed down, and even of run-ins with the entity of Maggie herself, who's been captured several times on security footage. Lastly, at the Hotel St. Nicholas, which was originally constructed as a hospital at the boom of the Pikes Peak Gold Rush, 3 separate entities have been encountered. The first being a presence dubbed Stinky, who likes to stand behind the staircase and who's followed by a putrid, sewage-like stench. The second being the specter of a half-materialized miner, and the third, a ghostly little boy known as Pete, who likes to steal cigarettes and other small items from those who aren't paying attention. Taking its fascinating history into account, and coupling it with such an impressive and frightening slew of purported paranormal activity and associated local legends, we felt Cripple Creek was the perfect choice as this list's most haunted place in Colorado. Thanks for tuning in for our 4th list of some of the most haunted places in Colorado. If you enjoyed our histories and ghost stories, subscribe to our channel, like this upload, and share us with anyone you feel could use a good scare. We'll catch you next time.